I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Swerzik, and today I have got a popular guest on the show, the one we trust in Miles we trust, Miles Neville. Miles, thanks for coming on the show.
Good morning.
I've been promising people we got to get in Miles we trust on the shirt. Yeah, thanks. Was that John? James?
John.
Yeah. Thanks, John. In Miles we trust. It's coming up towards the end of the year, which means a couple things. Number one, means the weather's starting to turn cool. That means hunting season's right around the corner, and it means there's just a handful of PRS matches left in the season before the finale. So I want to take this time to address the fact that we're doing a little mini-series. As it turns out, we started off with doing Jay Quinlan's rifle setup for hunting.
Right.
And it turned out people are interested in that. They like to know the why behind the build, if you will, from our notable cast of characters. So we've launched Preston's, his little 18-inch 6.5 PRC for hunting the prairie. And now's a good time. We've had by popular request, they want to see Miles' competition gun. And I have to say, with all due respect, this is the ugliest gun that we've had on the show to date. But it's incredibly functional, and you've done a really good job with it. Before we get into all the details of the build, when did you get into precision rifle competition? You've been into precision rifles and shooting for a long time.
Yeah.
When did you dive really headfirst into the competition world?
Pretty much as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps in 2014. Moved up to Rapid City to go to school and just started.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, I didn't get into like the 2-day PRS matches at that point, but was shooting all the little local Wyoming, South Dakota, regional, whatever.
Yeah,
outlaw matches. Yeah. So yeah, got hit in that pretty hard and heavy in 2014, 2015.
And then got out of school, got a real job.
Yep.
Came out here and then also dove straight into.
Yeah. So at that point, I was shooting like it was about a 14-pound.
It was a field rifle.
Yeah.
It was a practical field rifle.
It was. I took it hunting a few times. You know, it was light enough that you could take it hunting and not totally hate it. But then I got into some of the more serious NRL at that time, the gamer gun NRL 2-day matches before they broke off and did Hunter, and then eventually into PRS 2-day matches, and went to I think maybe 1 or 2 of those, and then was like, okay, well, this is the game that we've got to play. My 14-pound practical rifle, I can have fun at the match, but I'm not going to be competitive at the level that I thought I could be. So I built a gamer gun.
You built a gamer gun, and you became pretty damn competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, at a normal 2-day national level match, we expect to see you in the top 10, which that's a tight, that top 25, any one of those guys. Right. Can be in the top 10, and once you're in the top 10, any one of those guys can win the match. It usually comes down to what's between the ears that dictates who's going to win that day.
Yeah, just individual circumstances throughout the day, whatever stage you land up on,
Yep.
You know, when the wind decides to pick up and change or whatever. But yeah, no. I think the last couple years, I haven't done worse than 25th or so.
Yeah.
When I shoot open. When I shot gas gun, it was quite a bit.
Yeah, well, the gas gun is a separate one. We can't do a rifle build setup on the gas gun because you built a furnace and melted that gun into a chunk of steel.
No, I repurposed it for varmint hunting. So it's got a carbon fiber 22 arc barrel on it now and thermal scope. So.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, let's dive into this build. So for the listener out there, if you're listening only, we'll try our best to explain in detail what component is where and why for. But this is definitely a visual one. You can jump online here, jump on the YouTube, check this thing out. So before we get into the individual components, let's outline exactly what this is for and what it's chambered in.
Okay. It's purpose-built for the Precision Rifle Series NRL Barricade Bench Rest, the 2-day precision rifle competition stuff.
Okay.
I guess you could do 1-day regional stuff as well. But it's purpose-built for that. So, yeah, it's a 21-pound 6mm arc.
And you went 6mm arc. Walk us through why you chose the 6mm arc over 6.5 Creed, 6 Creed, 6 GT, 6 Dasher, some of those other typical staples in the game.
Yeah, and I think we've probably gone over this in a podcast before.
We certainly have.
But I'll tell a story again. I was shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor, shooting a 260 before that, a fast twist 260, and then a 6.5 Creedmoor. And, I had a little bit, at that time I was still shooting that 14-pound rifle. And I was not struggling with recoil, but I seen all these people shooting 6mm dash or 6mm Creedmoor. I was like, okay, well, let's just try it. Let's try a 6mm and get the recoil reduction. So I tried a 6 Creedmoor and wasn't really happy with it. They were getting to the target faster than I could track, and the recoil reduction to me didn't seem that dramatic. And so somebody was like, oh, it was right around the time that we released the 6 arc. Somebody was kind of joking and said, well, why don't you do a 6 arc? And at that time, we all kind of thought it didn't have the juice to get, the 1,000, 1,200 yards.
Well, it's got the juice.
So I was like, okay, well, whatever, I'll spin it up. And if I don't like it, I'll punch out the chamber to something bigger. You can't go wrong there. It's a, tiny little body cartridge. So let's give it a go. And I did it and fell in love.
Yeah, I think you took it out in that first match. You got like 7th or something like that.
Yeah. No, and it was, the recoil reduction was there. It's got just the right, hits that little notch. I get 2,700 to 2,800 foot per second, where the recoil's low, and I got enough recovery time through the recoil impulse that I can pretty much watch my trace if I'm prone or in a really stable position, and for sure almost always see where my impact is, either on the target or if I miss, where I'm hitting in the dirt.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I really fell in love with it. It's what I've got, this is a proof research barrel on there right now, but I've got a Krieger, a couple Bart lines, and HS all spun up, and I've got, I think, 6 or 7 barrels lined up ready to go for this.
Okay.
For this rifle.
So before we get into the components, we got a complete purpose-built gamer gun in 21-pound 6 arc, and you brought along some of your samples here for accuracy. What kind of accuracy are you getting out of this thing?
This is 110 grain A-tips with 27.5 grains of Varget, and I've got at 200 yards a 1.22 outside-to-outside group with a 0.41 inch mean radius. Jaden likes to call mean radius like your average miss distance off a center, and that's a pretty accurate way to describe it. So that's 0.2 MOA average miss distance, which is for a shoulder fired. For a shoulder fired rifle is pretty solid. And then I also, just to play around, I threw the same load in with 109 ELDMs, and one round here kind of goofed it all up.
Yep.
Kind of fell outside there, but even so, it's 1.6 inches, so about 0.8 for 20 shots. Without that, it's 1.1, so it's like just a shade over a half minute for 20 shots. And then the mean radius was 0.4 again. So, I mean, basically the same.
That's the accuracy that you require to perform at such a high level in this highly competitive sport.
You could do a bit worse than that and still be fine.
Okay.
Get into the reloading red zone with reloading tools from Hornady. Innovation, craftsmanship, and reliability. Hornady reloading presses are built with American pride and backed by our legendary no-risk warranty. Hand load precision with tools from Hornady.
All right, so now that we laid out exactly what it's for, what it's capable of for accuracy, and what bullet and velocities you're seeing, let's start with the heart of every rifle, that action that's in there.
Yeah, so this is an American rifle company, Nucleus 2.0, and I think I just checked their website here recently. I don't think they make them anymore. I think Ted has gone completely to the
coup de grace.
Coup de grace, the coup de grace. I don't know if he's even doing mousing fields anymore.
Really? Well, the Nucleus, you loved it. Talk us through what drove you to the Nucleus over, we've got a lot of friends that do Zermats, Impact, Horizon. We've got all kinds of actions out there, and we're friends with all of them. They're all good in their own way.
Right.
Why'd you choose the Nucleus?
For one, Ted does a good job of doing feature sets that aren't just feature set, like they're functional feature sets. And as an engineer, I kind of appreciate it. I'm gonna make it clear that when you get into the custom action world, they're all good.
Yeah.
Like you can't really go wrong, right? So when I say that I like this better than whatever, I'm not trashing anybody, because Impact, Bighorn, Zermatt, Defiance, they're all great. They're all really good actions.
Yep.
Like the machining, fit, and finish on all of them is good. But I just really like the way these run. It's a 3-lug, and then Ted's actions all have a toroidal lug on them, which it basically like a ball inside of a bowl. So the lugs theoretically always are going to make
Perfect mating.
perfect contact on all 3 lugs. And it's got control round feed and manual ejector, and I enjoy that. Plunger ejectors kind of throw your brass everywhere, and I like keeping it.
You like
close
trying to
home.
hit people when you rip that bolt back with that.
Yeah, you can control it. You can
ejector.
have it dribble out, 6 inches away, or you can chuck it and have it go 4 feet, whatever mood you're in. But luckily, it uses the Savage
red pitch.
Yeah, inch and 16th by 20 threads per inch. So the actual spacing on an unmodified nucleus is 100,000th shorter than a Bighorn TL3. But I conned our machine shop into making me a special lug that's 100,000ths thicker. So I run Bighorn TL3
Prefits
on it.
Essentially, and that's convenient because there's so many of us internally that have those Zermatt TL3s that we can just kind of share barrels
between
as needed.
TL3s and Origins with the short lug, like we're all, you can get all three different actions at all. We interchange barrels wherever we want.
Outstanding.
And we run those in the accuracy lab, so that can be helpful too if I'm ever, now I'm not ever in a case where I don't need a barrel because I've got 6 of them piled up. But if I did a caliber change or whatever, I can yoink one off an accuracy barrel downstairs and go do testing or whatever, use my gun when we do radar testing or whatever. So.
That's super convenient. So that's the action, the Nucleus 2.0.
Yep.
And any other feature sets that you really like about that Nucleus?
It just runs slick. I mean, impacts are there too. They run pretty good, but the main thing with it is just like, I don't know, you felt it.
It runs like a skin cat.
Yeah.
The bolt outruns your hand. Like it's so smooth, impossibly smooth.
Right.
So made it up on this one. You talked about it briefly, but let's go through this specific barrel, twist rate, etc., and then some of the other barrels that you run as well.
Yeah. So this barrel is just a standard pre-fit competition contour from Proof Research.
26-inch barrel, right?
26 inches long. Yeah. So with the 6 arc, you gotta run 26 or 28-inch barrels. If you go much shorter, the velocity dips like into the 2,600 foot per second range with Varget. You could run ball powder and get it back, but then you'd trade off temperature stability with that. Yeah. So Varget, I'll take the velocity hit because that stuff just like you can see it. I mean, we're single digit. We're getting 5 to 8 foot per second SDs on 20 shot strings. Like you're not going to beat that. And the temperature stability on Varget it's famous for it. So, 26 to 28 inch barrels. The other barrels I have a Krieger 28 inch. It's like a heavy varmint contour.
This is Proof Research's competition contour.
Yeah. And then I've got a couple straight Bart lines, inch 200 straight all the way.
Do you have a preference of contoured versus uncontoured barrels?
Not really. I would, if you ever wanted to use the rifle not for gaming, I would walk away from straight profiles. But for this game, it's a super heavy varmint or a straight profile barrel is the way to go. It really comes down to how the rifle balances front to back. So I've got my balance point right in front of my magazine well here.
Sure.
3 inches or so in front of the mag well. If a heavy contour long barrel pushes that way further forward, then maybe
that's not for you.
Yeah, shave some material off of it.
Now on the end, big old muzzle brake for this super recoiling cartridge. Yeah. What do you got on the end there?
So that's the Hellfire Match from Area 419. That system, because underneath that, it's like reverse threaded. So it's a left-hand thread to attach the muzzle brake to the adapter. And then that adapter just screws onto a 5/8, 24, half 28, whatever standard muzzle thread pitch. But that adapter, then I have associated adapters that screw into all of my suppressors and then all of the different brakes that I have. So I've got 6mm, 6.5, 30 caliber.
Yeah, 2-port, 3-port, 4-port.
2-port, 3-port, 4-port. And then I can, my whole Thunder Beast assortment of suppressors, I can quick swap them and they're self-timing. There's more jacking around with shims or.
Yeah. And so from a recoil standpoint, obviously I said that facetiously, the 6-Arc doesn't have a ton of recoil.
Right.
Especially in a 21-pound gun, but you're running the big 4-port brake.
Yeah. And that's just, because we've tried what you have that is it a Little Bastard?
Mm-hmm.
That cuts down recoil immensely as well. Where I landed at this was it's a 30 caliber brake And I tried 6.5, 30, and a couple of my suppressors, and that brake shot the best out of them.
Produces the lowest
Yeah, it's
dispersion.
in a bolt gun. It's not near as dramatic as when I had my AR-15, but I tried a bunch of different muzzle devices. I'm going to keep the Area 419 adapter just for convenience if I ever do want to shoot suppressed. So I tried all the different stuff that I have, and that one shot the best. So that's why that's on there.
Yeah.
It really doesn't, because I've shot 3 ports and 4 ports. And like you said, the 6mm arc and a 20-pound rifle, like you run bare muzzle, and it's not gonna beat you out.
You still need to see the trace, though, and that's where I was headed with that. Was it seems counterintuitive, like you have a no recoil cartridge in a 21-pound gun with the giant muzzle brake, but we keep saying game. Well, the game is where'd that bullet go?
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't hurt that is extremely efficient at reducing muzzle flip, muzzle rise and recoil. Yeah. Because like when you get in a good solid prone position on this, if the conditions are remotely correct to see trace, you're going to see your own trace.
Beautiful.
Yep. And I've even noticed, like down in our tunnel, it's whatever you imagine shooting through a 4-foot wide tunnel. It's dark and then there's lights on the targets, but you can watch the disruption at 100 and 200 yards in between you and the paper target in that tunnel. You can you can see the trace through recoil with that.
That's
at 100 and 200 yards. So.
All right. So we've got a barreled action. We've got the muzzle device. Got to have a trigger. What are we running?
Trigger Tech Special, I believe. I run triggers a little heavier than a lot of people in this competitive world. I usually run 1.5 to 2 pounds.
Really? Because in this competitive space, I know a lot of people playing the game.
Yeah,
with 4, 6, 8 ounce triggers.
Down in the ounces. No, I don't like that. I enjoy being sure that I want to pull the trigger when I want to pull the trigger.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's totally fine because you'll whoop all of our butts in this room with a 18-pound trigger.
Right, yeah. No, if you can squeeze a 2-pound trigger, you can, then yeah.
All right. So Trigger Tech Special, not the Diamond. So going with the Special.
Yeah, and it's a
preference.
Yeah, the Diamond is fine. I just no point in spending the extra money because I'm going to tune it to 1.5, 2 pounds anyway.
Right on.
The Hornady Rapid Safe Keypad Vault offers quick, dependable access to your firearm while providing security from unauthorized users. The Rapid Safe Keypad Vault is constructed of a heavy-duty 14-gauge steel housing and thick steel lid for tamper-proof security. The included RFID watch band tag and RFID decal can be selectively programmed to open this safe and any other Rapid Safe you own. The Rapid Safe Keypad Vault from Hornady Security.
Okay, so that's the barreled action. Now, it's settled in. You went chassis on this thing, not a stock. Walk us through why chassis over stock and then which chassis you selected.
Okay, so backstory, I'm a huge Manners fan. Prior to this chassis, I was running, I think, a Manners T2. And the problem that I had was when I was buying components for that rifle, I was like, I want to keep it practical. And so, it wasn't even a T2.
Is it EH1?
EH1, yeah. So I was like, okay, I want it to be practical use for precision shooting and for hunting.
Coyote hunting.
Yeah. And so I got a carbon fiber shell lightweight EH1. And I couldn't get the weight out of it that I wanted without seriously modifying it. And about the time I was looking at buying a weighted T2A that was just going to be super heavy, American Rifle Company came out with these chassis and had an introductory sale.
Okay, the Xylo.
The Xylo. And so we've called it the Ugly Duck since we ever laid eyes on it.
It's a term of endearment.
Yeah, and it definitely does not look pretty compared to some other things out there. But
that doesn't take away from the functionality.
Right, yeah. The feature set on the chassis, so it's got wooden grip panels here that are basically set up the same as a traditional, steep
grip.
Yeah, vertical grip stock. And so, yeah, it feels to the shooter more or less really the same as a stock.
Okay.
A lot of the chassis out there that have AR-15 pistol grips, I can't get behind it.
Okay.
So
it's not comfy.
Yeah, there's a couple of chassis out there that do it okay. That new Zermatt Matterhorn, that thing is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And there's the Wooks has one out there that's kind of looks similar to this. It's got wood panels on it as well. There's a few of them out there that I can get behind. But yeah, this came out at the right time when I was looking. Got the introductory pricing, but yeah, it's got a full length Arca rail with the Area 419 Arca lock little scallops in it.
So that's important.
Yeah. Not so much for this bipod, but a lot of the other ones I have the adapter, the 419 adapter. And so even if the screw comes a little bit loose, those lock into those little scallops. So, but full length Arca rail for sure is pretty much a requirement.
Okay.
And then
now you've got it tricked out here. So let's talk about what you did.
This cheek piece is a leftover piece of walnut from that stock that I carved for my NRL Hunter rifle. But the original cheek piece that this comes with, I would say, leaves a little bit to be desired. It's only good one way, basically. So like a lot of the matches, you'll run into at least 1 or 2 stages where you have to shoot offhand.
Yep.
And if you have to do that, the other one, it's like a angled bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fine on one side, but then on the other side, you got like
a sharp edge.
Yeah, you got just a plate digging into your cheek.
You 3D printed one to replace that.
Right,
first.
Yeah. I had originally 3D printed basically this exact same shape. And then was like, well, this kind of looks hokey, 3D printed stuff on here. So I had this leftover piece of wood and knocked it out.
Okay.
Friday afternoon project.
Yeah, it looks like hand carved, hand sanded.
Yeah. Just did this, it's pretty basic. But yeah, cut out the square stuff in the mill and then got after it with a couple files. And
the rest is history.
Yeah.
Things custom. Looks good.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right, shooting support side. I'll be honest with you. Early on in my competitive career, that was, you got that and it was always a challenge. Well, I trained it a little bit and you shot a few more matches with it. Now, a superpower is not the right word, but it's almost like an ace in the hole, if you will, because there are some instances where I'm watching people shoot and it's like, well, that ain't going to work, but they're going to try it anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why don't I just jump around and shoot support side?
Right.
I'm pretty competent at it and you can just work that into your game planning or your stage plan.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable once you're good and comfortable with it.
Right.
Pick up a point or two just by going support side.
Yeah. You can spend 7 seconds contorting your body and fighting it, or you can just swap over the other shoulder and once
let it rip.
Yeah. It's and honestly, it's kind of funny because you almost force yourself, because it's so unfamiliar as far as like muscle memory or whatever, that you almost force yourself to shoot better support side because you're going through and doing what,
That's true.
Forcing yourself to apply the fundamentals because it's not all second nature to you.
Right. So that's super cool that you're able to customize that. And same thing with the grip. Should you be so inclined,
right,
you could take a rasp. And,
on the far side here, actually, you can't really see it from the camera view, but I've got a couple grooves cut in for fingers. And he sells just blank grip, so you can get replacements and go as hog wild with that as you want to.
That's cool. So there's some other accoutrement attached to this here. I see some weights. I see a stage saver. What do we got here?
Yeah, so this is a replacement piece. This is made out of steel. The standard one that comes with it is aluminum.
Okay, so we're talking basically a bag rider.
Yeah, the bag rider on the back, on the bottom of the buttstock. And so that adds weight, and then I've got M-Lock weights bolted onto that as well.
Did you make that?
No.
Okay.
This is American Rifle Company.
Oh, so you said the original one is aluminum, but you can buy a steel.
Yep. And that was just to get the whole weight up, because I put in the weight M-Lock weights on the front on the fore end. 2
on the fore end bolted on each side.
Yep.
Nothing internal.
No, I have done that before. I can get it up to about 26 pounds, and it's not necessary. Yeah. But putting those up front with the heavy full contour 28-inch barrels that I run, it made it a little front heavy, so I balanced it out in the back here.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Like I said, the weight's nice, but it's got to be balanced. If it's 20 pounds and unbalanced, I'd rather have a 16-pound balanced gun.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And of course, the stage saver, just a little Velcro patch.
Yep. 2 rounds in there. Most of the time I forget it's there and think I'm out of ammo anyway.
Well, speaking of ammo on tap, the 6mm ARC, when it came out, obviously it's an AR-15 cartridge primarily, but it's popular in a bolt gun now. I'm running it, you're running it. Preston back here runs it. I mean, we've got a bunch of us, and that's internal. But around the country, it's getting popular in a bolt gun.
I think every match that I've gone to, I've talked to at least 4 or 5 people that either shoot it in a bolt gun or that are extremely interested in pursuing that.
Excellent. And now, there's all kinds. Obviously, you have our factory ammo and our brass, but Alpha Munitions is making brass. There's just more support for it. Going after the magazine, though, you got to be able to have a mag. What are you running for those?
MDT, you can run the BR magazines if you already have those, or they have one specific to the ARC. I think it just has a little bit thicker spacer in the back.
Okay.
But yeah, you can
12-rounder.
12 rounders, yeah.
So you've got barreled action, you've got your trigger, you've got the stock and the chassis in this case, and it's pretty well custom and laid out for you. Got the magazines to feed those rounds, and it feeds well. That's the other thing is with that controlled round feed.
So that's a good point. With the 110s, the ogive is quite a bit longer. Well, not quite a bit, but it's longer than the 108s.
Mm-hmm.
And in an AR-15, you're stuck at 2.26 or so. With these, they got like a 2.5-inch limit, but you hit the lands somewhere around 2.38. So I can run 2.35, have plenty of room in the mag, never bind it up. And you get a little bit more powder capacity with that as well. So you can run bolt gun pressure and make a little bit more room for it. So
that works out really nicely. Now, all the way up front, you got to have a bipod. That's kind of, with one sandbag and one bipod, you can really run almost every PRS match in the country. What's up front?
Yeah. For the longest time, I had a stick in my mind that a Harris bipod was all a guy ever needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I refused to pay more than $200 for a bipod. And then eventually I borrowed enough of these that I just broke down and got the MDT SkyPod.
Yeah, it's an expensive tool, but it is an extremely useful tool nonetheless.
Yeah. And I use it for hunting. I use it in NRL Hunter as well. There's no getting around it. Like the range of height that you can get out of a single bipod, it's incredible.
Yeah, and for the listener out there, if you haven't, get your hands on one if you can, because you can go 45-degree legs, 90-degree legs, and then you can go 3 different positions laterally, plus the extension. So you pull everything in tight, you can get this thing
2 feet
2 feet off the ground, almost 18 inches. And then if you go 45 and tight, way out, you can go 4 inches off the ground.
Right.
So the versatility is just incredible, especially when you start getting into different barricades and tire traps and tank traps,
rocks and whatever else. Yeah, there's tons of applicable use that you can get out of that thing. They have double pull and triple pulls. The double pull is useful about once a year.
Yeah, for PRS.
For PRS, and it's kind of like a boat. I let somebody else in the squad buy it, and then
let me snatch that up. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, there's usually somebody around that's got something you can borrow during those PRS matches. So
I would agree. But if you're going to invest in one, you think that's the one?
I think the single pull covers 99% of everything. Yeah.
Yep, I would agree with you. I have 2 single pulls, actually, and I really don't need the triple pull for NRL Hunter, let's say. If I can't get it done with the single pull, I'm going to a tripod.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And with PRS, you can get everything done with a single pull.
I think so. Yeah, if you can't pull it off with a single pull, you probably just need to throw a bag down and shoot off a bag.
Yep, fair enough. And with that Xylo chassis having that integrated ARCA rail, it's flat as a pancake on the bottom, perfect for riding on a bag.
Yep.
And now before we get to what's on top here, kind of goes in with the chassis and bipod a little bit, what do you run for a rear bag?
An Armageddon Gear medium sand filled with about a quarter of the sand missing.
Okay, so you've got a wax canvas, heavy fill.
Heavy fill. Yep. Heavy fill is the way to go. I ran a pint size for a long time, and I really love that bag for the weight and the size and carrying it around and using it. It's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really pay attention to it and you set that one down next to the medium, having that bigger bag is just more stable on more barricades.
Sure. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it's not a huge difference, but you'd be surprised. And I tried like the light fill and the standard fill and the heavy fill, and you can definitely tell a difference there too.
Yeah, I think the heavy fill medium. Again, if you're going to buy one bipod, man, that's hard. You could buy a lot of them, and there's some other good ones out there, but that's a good investment. Same thing with the bag. If you're in the PRS game, getting into it, you want to buy one bag, probably buy the medium. Weebad has some good ones out there too. Joe Thielen, he's a big fan of their stuff. I have the Fortune Cookie heavy fill, same thing.
And those are solid as well. Yeah, there's a bunch of good options out there anymore, but yeah, that's the one I stumbled into, and it's worked really well for me.
Bore Driver ELDX. fast and easy to load. The polymer base seals the bore and engages the rifling, while the post and pedals grip the bullet's boat tail. With its superior ballistic coefficients and reduced drag, the bore driver ELDX drives its 340 grain bullet to target with the energy and accuracy that turns shots into success. When you have one shot this muzzleloader season, make it count and use the best. Bore driver ELDX from Hornady.
Now, moving up top here, you've got a set of rings and you've got an optic. Now, this one is always really interesting to hear the insight because it's all personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have friends everywhere and we can use whatever we want. And so it's really interesting to hear why you selected this specific scope and not just the brand and stuff, but the specific model within the line.
Right.
Because I think there's something to be said about that here as well. So what's on top?
Yeah, I got a Night Force Attacker F1 4-20. I have a 4-16 that I wanted to get for my NRL Hunter gun, and I got it, and I wanted to try it out, so I threw it on this gun and ran the South Dakota match last year. And what I found with the 4-16 is that the reticle, because the top end's only 16, the reticle line itself is a little bit thicker than what I was used to seeing in Joe's 7-35.
Okay.
So it was fine. It was totally usable. I think I got like 6th place at that match. So I did well.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, did well with it. But the 4-20 I got basically purely because the reticle is a little bit thinner.
Okay.
I personally almost never go over 15 power. So I thought the 4-16, I was like, okay, well,
That'll work just fine.
yeah. So anyway, the 4-20, it's nice. It's like shooting groups and stuff in the lab. I definitely noticed the 20 power is a little bit better for putting that little dot, right
Sure.
where I want it. But it's got the Mil XT reticle, which is fine. I like it. Before this, I ran a Gen 3 Razor.
Mm-hmm.
And other than making the rifle top heavy, I almost want to say I like the EBR7 reticle, I like better than the Mil XT.
Sure.
And the glass between the two, it's pretty much a wash to my
Okay.
eyes. Yeah, it's different colors for sure. I'd say oranges and greens are a little more vibrant in the Gen 3 Razor than in this. But as far as clarity goes, looking into the sun in the morning or in the evening, resolution, I can't really tell a difference. The field of view in both of them is excellent compared to stuff that I've used in the past. So it's kind of a wash. I just wanted to try something a little bit different. And,
Sure.
And yeah, so I've been using it and I enjoy it. I will say I'm kind of on board with you and Preston in that when you turn the power ring on this, the whole thing changes.
The whole ocular
And
spins.
that's fine until you put a flip cover on it. And if you don't get that timed out just where you want it, sometimes you can get this in the way of things.
Yeah, of your bolt. But the Tenebro covers, obviously that's top shelf.
Yeah, and that comes with a scope. So a lot of times in the past too, I've just ripped that rear one off because it gets in the way regardless.
Sure. That's nice to protect the glass. It's a big investment.
Yeah,
You mentioned, the Gen 3 Razor, obviously a force to be reckoned with. The Leupold Mark V and now the Mark IV, the Collis line. I mean, Bushnell
Collis,
elites.
Collis. The Leupolds are solid. It's the same thing as like the custom actions. Once you get up
Into that upper echelon.
Yeah, into a certain price point on glass. Because I've run Leupold Mark 5s, Mark 6s, March, Night Force. I did the old NXSs, and then these Attackers, Gen 2 and Gen 3 Razors. They all get the job done. It's really down to personal preference points and what the I don't know. Like I was saying, there's definitely color favors between the different brands. So some will look yellow, some will bring out the greens, some will look blue, gray, whatever. It just comes down to personal preference. Everybody's eye is a little different. So yeah, whatever works for you. But between these and the Gen 3 Razors, I think are my top picks for right now. But the Collis is probably right there up with them. I just haven't got one.
Yeah, right on. Well, this is a heck of a build, and you mentioned it at the beginning, and we've talked about it a bunch. This is an expressly built rifle for a individual purpose. This isn't something you're taking out coyote hunting. Maybe you go pound on some prairie dogs or something with it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, this is a race gun to go to PRS matches with.
Yeah. And I would say too, I can swap this bag rider back out and pull the front weights off, and I have a 24-inch carbon fiber inch 200 straight proof research barrel.
Okay.
And that gets the whole rifle down to 15 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And that's
That's not
I'll
so
take
bad.
I'll take that coyote hunting. You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that barrel that still pounds, like it does well. So, but yeah, you just on the barricades and whatever to get the competitive edge, having the weight there just helps.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up here towards the end of the year, like I mentioned at the podcast. You've got this system dialed in. You've been shooting this system in the open division for 2 years now. So don't change anything now because the finale is right around the corner.
Right.
So you're not going to change that. Looking forward, you're going to stick with the 6 arc. You're going to stick with how you got it set up. You might change anything out. What's on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm probably stuck with it. I got 6 barrels chambered up and broken in and tested out that I know that they work. So I'm probably going to stick with that for the most part.
Okay.
I have a 308 barrel that I've spun up. I need to poke around with that a little bit. I haven't put any rounds on it, but I've been thinking about giving Joe a run for his money in TAC class.
Okay.
And then I have a 6.5 Creedmoor barrel, Brux, that I've got spun up that I might take out to the PRC next year.
Oh, yeah. That Utah match that Hornady does, the Hornady PRC, if you're going to shoot a 6.5, that's the one to do it at. I mean, it's that type of field-style match, shooting in those canyons with the wind gradient, flat-out wind speed, the direction of shots. I mean, there's so many dynamics at play just with the wind, regardless of shooting position, target array, shot distances, etc. Just with the wind, if you're going to do it, I think, man, a heavy 6.5 for that match specifically is probably the way to go.
Yeah. I don't know. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've never really felt let down with the 6mm arc. I think it does plenty good, but there are definitely a few matches out there where a 153 might be your friend.
Well, we're talking here, okay, I'm a mid-pack shooter. The difference between a 6.5 Creed and a 6 arc, for me, indistinguishable because I make too many mental errors. But for the upper echelon of performers in this game, you know, what separates first place through 10th place is way less than 10 points.
Right.
So you need every point advantage you can get. And we're going down to the individual point. So it does make a little bit of sense for you on those matches. But again, I've shot the 6 arc a bunch competitively, and I've never walked away and felt like, man, I was really undergunned there.
Right.
I always walked away going, man, I wish I would have pulled my head out of my butt on that stage.
Right.
But it's never been a cartridge thing. So coming up with the finale, you got the 109 ELD match, you got the 110 A-tip. What's going to be the load?
Probably going to run 110s.
Yeah. There's a difference.
Yeah. So, and this is actually part of a little series that some data collection I'm doing. We'll hopefully get it published or do something with it. But
yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. I'd like to take these because I'm doing a whole series of bullets at 200 yards in the tunnel, and then I'd like to take them out and get radar data and then shot marker data at 1,000, and just kind of do a big data nerd off.
Yep.
So,
well, for all you podcast listeners out there that want to hear about that, you have to let us know in the comments. Because, yes, you're going to do this test regardless and compile the data, and you guys will do what you do with it in the engineering world.
Right.
But if we can communicate that to our listeners, I think that would be huge. Just, you know, it kind of goes back to your groups are too small and all of those other podcasts that we've done. This kind of fits right in there.
Yeah. I think we can keep pushing that message as far as hit probability, data collection, whatever, how you analyze the performance of your rifle.
Yeah.
And get people out of the 1-inch view and up to maybe the 10-foot view.
Yeah. Groovy. Well, Miles, appreciate you walking us through this rifle setup about the end of your season coming up here. Wish you the best of luck at the finale. Is there anything else you want to leave our listener with about your Precision Rifle Series gamer build or, the 6 arc in general?
No, I think we covered it pretty good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, good luck this season, man. It's going to be a good finale.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode where we covered Miles' Precision Rifle Series gamer gun. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next one.